Hi everyone, just before I make a start on this update of the Pi telephone number 1806, a quick look back into the two Portuguese phones. And I've learnt a little bit more actually. Looking through eBay, I noticed another phone up there which was identical to the Portuguese phone. Now I'm beginning to think that the other phone I bought at virtually the same time from another dealer, thinking it was a Portuguese phone, may have not been a Portuguese phone, but the two phones are definitely identical, and I would say they came out of the same stable. So it looks possible that the phones we were looking at were probably made by the same maker. And looking into it further, it was made by Plessey Systems, and obviously they supplied, whether they exclusively supplied Portugal, I don't know, but I would definitely say that the phone that Portugal received from Portugal was from Plessey, and they call it a 7214. And it was obviously used for systems set up by Plessey, private companies that supplied telecommunications. So that looks like that's what's happened there. I've just noted there that this was seen on eBay. So it just shows you, keep looking, you never know. Learning all the time. And of course a lot of these phones bought from dealers, you don't really know whether they've changed things about. But I know my genuine, well, I say genuine now because it's genuine, it came from Portugal, and it's got a Portugal label in it, and I'm now pretty sure that that's where they came from, Plessey System. How I've never come across this particular model before, I don't know. But there we are. Anyhow, I thought I'd have another little look at the Pi number 1806. I have shown this before, but I thought we'd go into a little bit more detail of this actual phone. As the blurb says, they were introduced, if I can see what it says there, in the 1960s. And the illustration that they showed is very similar to the phone I've got here. But I think this is probably an even earlier one. Obviously in the 60s. There's the case, and I say the little plungers are not the normal type. They are silvered or metal and circular, not like the normal ones you'd see on a 706. But the case is obviously a 706 case. It's modified at the back because you then use these two fixing screws to act on these two lugs to hold the case in, and obviously the front of the case is held in two little lugs at the front. But inside the phone is totally different, and I can show more, but this time I took the dial off. Also notice I turn it round, the connections are not in the same place. Now, on the blurb that I got, which is obviously the later version, the connections are exactly the same as a 706, but in this case they're not. And so it gives me an indication that this was an earlier version. I'll give you the run out of those. I say this is a T89. That was what was on the base, model 1806. I've got down here 1964. Well, that is the age. Well, I've seen stamped it's on the receiver. Looking where the connections go, the green and red are obviously the line cord connections, green and red, and they go to 18 and 19, which on here are those two there, 18 and 19. The numbers are exactly the same, but as you can see, a lot of them are missing, they're not there. And the 1 and 2, blue and white, and it's strapped through there. That would be your bell connection, and if you wanted an extension bell, remove that strap and the bell would go on the other end of this lead, obviously connected up, and it would be a series connection to the bell. But as it's not required, it's just short-circuited out, so the bell works. Talking about the bell, it is totally different. There it is there. It's adjustable. It's 1000 ohms. Adjustable on one coil. Got the screw there to adjust it to either ring louder or softer. Same type of side tone coil as you would normally find on this on the 706, so that's the same, and the capacitor also the same. And show you how close these are obviously to the manufacture of the GPO phones, the 706. You look at the other end of the capacitor and it says GPO batch sampled. So obviously these have come out of the same factory, but these ones are totally different inside. Very basic. Obviously do the job. They're nicely clipped in where the cables go. The other point with these, you see I took the dial assembly out. The bells are exactly the same as you would see on a 706 with the same numbers, 24A and 24B. Yeah, that one's B and that one's A, because the bells are different, they give a different tone. Well, they're the same ones that would be in the 706. Anyhow, this one does not have a regulator. There's the groove there that the moulding would have allowed one to go in there, but this model I think was an earlier one, and the regulator is not there, not needed. Yet the diagram which I've got from this blurb, which I've got off of eBay, shows a different, well, I say different, it definitely shows the regulator, and the contacts, the terminations are like a normal 706, where this one isn't. This is slightly different, so it makes it interesting, but it's obviously an older one. Not just that that's different. Let's have a look at the dial. You can see the dial, it's got a nice shiny metal. Slight space between the 0 and the finger stop, which could confuse some people to think that's an automatic electric dial, but it isn't. Turn the dial over. I won't take the dust cover off, it's too much of a job, but looking at the dial, it's the same style as the dial on the Autophone, German made dial, which were based on the Siemens Halske design. I think they're quite a good idea how they use how they've been put together. This one works perfectly. What is interesting is whatever digit you dial, it will send out one extra digit. The reason for this is so the speed of the dial builds up, so it's an even speed. So if you dial 1, it'll send out 2 pulses. Dial 3, it'll send out 4 pulses, but that first pulse doesn't get sent. What's the word they use? Got to correct the right word for these. My grammar's probably not that good. The dial actually pulses an extra pulse for every digit dialed, but the first is masked. Theoretically, this was to ensure that the dial was running at the correct speed, thus ensuring clean, regular pulses. That's what I've just read off the blurb. So there's the dial. As I say, it's an identical dial to the one on the Autophone. Might even be made by that same maker. As I say, it was based on the Siemens Halske design, but weren't exclusively made by them. But as I say, it works, and it seems to be quite good. Now that is more or less all I've got to say about the phone and the workings, but let's have a look at the handset. Handset is exactly the same as you would see on a 706. In fact, the receiver is a standard type of insert, exactly the same as you would find. It's a rocking armature receiver, but looking at the transmitter or the microphone, you'll see that it's the very old style, the one I call the top hat type. It looks a bit like a top hat, and this would have been the type you'd find on a 332, the earlier version of telephones. But this company obviously used this to fit in, and it does fit in. where you'd put the modern transmitter. I'm not going to alter it. It is all part of the age of the phone, and I think this is would be the genuine one that was in there. Anyhow, I'm finding extra things to say, which don't need to. Let's have a look at the rear of this, the other side of the case. A bit mixed up here. Sorry, it's around the wrong way, but not to worry. It's a plastic base. T89 is printed on there. No indication of maker, but no problem there, because this has been identified with the blurb that I showed earlier. It is definitely one of these by Pi, and the fact it's T89 should also indicate it. Yeah, I think that's more or less all I've got to say. As I say, I'm learning the whole time, not just with these, with my plants. I'm dying to get outside and do a bit more watering and potting, but I've just been too cold. I've really been cold of late. I want some warmer weather. So I thought, well, fill in the time doing a few of these. I've got a load more phones. Don't think I'm just going over these because I've run out of them. I haven't run out of them. Got plenty more. But yeah, I thought I'd put that one up. This is now working, as are my two, I say Portuguese phones. One's definitely from Portugal. The label in the dial says it is, and then it came imported from Portugal. But I learnt a bit, and it looks like that was the model made by Plessy. So it must be quite a rare one, because I've never come across this particular model before. Now, talk about rarity, I think there's this Pi telephone's probably a bit rare as well. And even so, because this one's an earlier one, but it doesn't have the regulator. Oh, and I'll show you the diagram. A very basic diagram, and not a standard type diagram. I hope I can bring it up and show it. It's stuck obviously on the inside. You can see it doesn't even show you the number of the terminations. It's a totally different style of diagram you'd find on these phones. And that's it, and it's very, very basic, but it does the job. And no regulators in sight. Yet the other diagram, which is on the blurb, does show a regulator and a more of a standard type of diagram. This one is anything but standard, which adds to the interest, because this is obviously a little bit rarer. Now turn it over to the other side of the cover. I've shown, I believe, this before on the other write-up I done on this, or talk about it. You've got the adjustment of the bell, and that tells you how to adjust the bell for the loudness. So yeah, all in all, nice little telephone for the collection. Working well, and a little bit unusual. It's always nice to find the odd things. The pure fluke that the reason I got this one out from upstairs was I was looking through eBay again today, and they listed one of these Pi phones, and I thought, I'm sure I've got one of these, and of course I have. So there we are. So you can still get these things. What it's the state of it, I do not know. It's always a gamble. Whenever you're buying stuff off of eBay, it's a gamble. On the whole, most of the stuff I've got has been good and not broken or anything like that. But it all adds to the interest and sort of keeping going and seeing if things are okay. Anyway, I'm finding it difficult to talk now because I'm running out of things to say. Thanks again for watching. Any comments please make. As I say, I'll try and get back. I'm glad I was able to amend what I'd said on the Portuguese phones. Now know that they were possibly, or not possibly, they were made by the Plessy company for the Plessy systems. Anyhow, I'm going to shut up now. Thanks again for watching. Thank you.